We are going to leave?
It says initializing. Okay.
There is someone.
Yeah, Jay showed up. Hey, Jay.
Oh, he's. Hey. Are we live?
We
Yes,
are.
we are live.
Hey.
Hi everyone.
Hi,
Hey, look who
everyone.
showed up.
All right, shall we take it from the top? Wait, I can't even see who's here. Let me just check. Oh, so we have Mike, we have Amit and Jay here. Hi everyone, welcome to Draftbit Office Hours. I know it's been a while that we haven't done this, but I'm happy that you guys could join us here. We have our newest team member, Rumeysa, here with us. She is our success engineer, and we have our product guy, Dave, also with us. Head of product, Dave.
Product manager, yeah, head of products.
Amazing. And you guys, I think some of you know me. My name is Rahul. I head the success and the experts team here. And we are here to answer your questions. So we'll start with answering your questions if you have any. Otherwise, we will start to demo some cool things that we are doing in Draftbit.
Yeah,
Jay, Mike, you
while
guys,
waiting for questions.
go ahead.
Sorry, Dave.
No, you're good.
So basically, maybe we can cover. So, what are we going to talk about today? I mean, some product updates, maybe new documentation, and of course, we'll be answering your questions as well and share your feedbacks. Maybe we can provide some feedbacks. So please make sure to ask your questions. But maybe before starting, that there is a thing that we should underscore right here. Maybe. What do you think, Rahul? There was a recent issue that some of our users may have encountered about fetch component, particularly when making API post API calls. Um, so it's fixed now, and it was an unexpected side effect actually of the new updates, right, Rahul?
Yes. So basically, we are changing how we do our fetch component, giving it more powers. You can do a whole lot of more stuff with the new fetch component and React query. And we will demo some of these features today for you. And we'll start in about a minute or two if we don't have any questions from you guys.
Yeah, just a note, like I'm also here to take any ideas or suggestions y'all have or feedback on the product in general. So let me hear it if you got ideas or requests or things are bothering you or could be better. I'm open to hearing whatever. So Jay, looks like Jay said something. Rumeysa.
Yeah. Jay says that I will leave my issues to the support threads, but I did want to ask about what you folks are working on and what my timelines might look like for various updates. Are you working on fixing the stack navigation issues, reusable components, better conditionals? I have a lot of ideas and requests, he says.
Well,
Thank you,
I love
Jay.
ideas and requests. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Definitely. Okay, so let's get started. What I'll do is I will keep the fetch demo for the last. I will show you some cool features or the cool components that we have launched alongside our fetch component. I actually just saw a question from Mike. I just had another question about some custom code around sharing, but I can leave it to the thread that I was posted in the Ask for Help section. Hi Dennis, how are you doing? I'm curious about Apple Health integrated AI assistant. Both are good questions. Um, So yeah, there was a point that we added Apple Health in our Draftbit Life Review app, but then we had some problems with the App Store, so we had to remove that library. We are working on a way of adding it again, so it's still on our to-do list, and it should be added in the near future. But thank you for bringing that up again.
Yeah, just to clarify, like the problem we ran into was Apple will not approve our preview app with the Apple Health Kit inside of it. So that's like a big, blocker for being able to let users actually, use the feature and test everything on their device and all that stuff. So it's one of the things we're trying to work around. But if you like, I can get to a lot of this roadmap stuff at the end if you want to demo first, and then I can like cover some of the stuff that's upcoming.
Sure. Thank you, Dave. Let me start showing my screen. Um, Let me know if you can see it.
It's good for me.
Yes.
Alrighty. All right, so we will start with the linear progress component that we just added to Draftbit. This is basically pretty cool for showing loading states or showing loading progress bar, progress indicator. This can also be used when you have a multi-page form and you can keep showing the progress has increased once they go to the next form. Let me quickly demo that for you. So we have a slider component here at the bottom that's basically controlling the state of our linear progress bar. So if I go all the way down here, you can see the linear progress bar is also reducing. And if I go all the way to 100%, you will see this is all covered, and it also shows this nice animation. I already like it, and it's pretty simple to use. All you need to do is give it a value that controls the progress, right? So it could be any numeric value. 50% will bring it to 50, and so on. So pretty simple component, but I think it's a useful addition to Draftbit. Let me know if you guys have any questions about this one. I would love
I
to
can just
answer
add a
those.
couple things. There's a lot of configuration props for both of these components. So you can, set the track color, the line color, end caps. You can turn off the animation, turn it on and off. So a lot of cool stuff to check out.
Yeah, actually, I didn't even, this is pretty cool. So this gives you a lot of control. And that's what we are trying to do with our other components as well, is give the users as much control to these components without using code.
Mike,
Yeah.
no, it does not support gradient colors at the moment. We can take a look. I can see if that's possible. I don't know if it's supported by the underlying package or not, but we could take a look.
Also,
Yeah,
Dennis says it's a pity the progress charts cannot map the actual number on top on the circular progress chart. He says.
oh,
Oh, I got you. I mean, you could position a number, like a text component on top of it using absolute positioning, but it would be nice if like you could nest a text
Yeah.
inside of the circular progress and have it just set it up for you.
Yeah,
yeah.
that could be another thing.
Let's see if I can try to show what that means. It's I believe it's slider value. It goes to 60, and then I can have position. Okay, I think I would need to add a view component to do this.
Yeah, you would. You need to like absolutely position.
The text like in the no. So let me just first move this here. Then I can position absolute. Oh, there you go. So obviously I haven't made any changes here, but it's still showing up 60 in here. That's basically how your screen is kind of broken down into components. but you can have some sort of a percentage here, static value, dynamic value, whatever you need to position these for you. So if I do bottom maybe 50, it goes, okay. Because right now this is basically taking the absolute position of the screen. So if I play around with it just a bit more, maybe I can play around with it a bit more. So anyways, any more questions, or do you guys want me to continue what I'm doing, or should I stop?
Let's go to the next. Let's go to the next component.
Cool. So now we have an HTML component, which is basically an HTML view component, which renders HTML for you in your app. So, there are use cases when you want to, just take some HTML code and put it in your app. Now you can use this component. And I think Dave is the one that built this app. So we have two different types. So you can use
You get
Tailwind
it.
HTML. Yeah,
Well,
go ahead, Dave.
the difference is you can pass either just an HTML snippet, so like a heading and a div and a p tag, or you can pass a whole HTML doc. So you can, like on that top example, I'm actually loading in Tailwind CSS and using Tailwind CSS in that doc.
Right. So there we go. So there you go, doc type HTML, and well, this is actually really cool that you can load a script directly from this. I can see a whole bunch of use cases for this.
Yeah, there's actually a lot of handy config props on here for like disabling JavaScript. You can turn on and off the cache. You can enable incognito mode, change the user agent. You can do a lot of cool stuff. So definitely worth
Yeah,
checking out.
definitely. Pretty cool. Any questions about HTML components?
Not now, I guess.
Okay. Moving on, let's go to our section list component, which I personally feel is pretty cool as well. So now we have another list component in Draftbit, which is basically a section list, which gives you the ability to have a section header. So you can have, so for instance, a good use case that I feel for this would be uh, looking at someone's schedule. So your backend sends data as in today, these are your appointments. Tomorrow, these are your other appointments. So you can take all of that data and just pass it into this list with different sections in it. Showing you the
So,
configurations for you. Oh, sorry.
well, I was just
Any
going to
questions?
mention, so out of the box, it has the main prop here is you can send a section, basically a section key to on the data tab, right? So like the idea is you have an array of objects and all the objects have a shared property, and then you pass that property to the list. So in my example, it's team or whatever. I think I can't quite see it, but so all the records that I'm fetching have a team prop or team attribute, and so I'm passing that in. And that's what creates the sections. And then we've added a second component, the section header. If you want to make a custom header in place, like the default, I have two different examples here. The default screen is like the default header. It just comes out of the box, and then
Yeah, we
check that.
received a question about
Go to the
that,
style on
Dave.
that list. Go to the style on the list.
Sure.
Change it to Flex 1. Some of those got reset somehow. Okay. So, yeah, so this is the default, right? But then in the custom header screen, I show like how you can add a custom header component, and then anything inside of the custom header component receives a variable which has the name of the section. So you can stick it in a text or like however you want to do it. That's what I've done here is use a text.
Oh, this is pretty cool. Rumeysa, you said there's questions about the section list?
Sorry. Davey asks, would that work for a calendar as events? He says.
Sure, yeah. If it should, yeah. I mean, if you're doing date, I don't know that it would work with date and time, but like if you had a date field, and so it would take all the dates, that are the same and group them together. Yeah.
Yeah, so it basically depends on the data that you're sending to this list, and
If
I feel
every
like that.
date is different, then you'll have one section for every single different date. But like if you've got like groups of dates that all are the same, then in that situation it makes sense to use it, right?
Yep. So just to show what's happening here, guys. So you can see things which have team, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Dave. So things with the team one are going to automatically show up in the team one tab.
Hmm.
And then we have items which have the team two right here. So you can see the first name is Delphia. So this is now coming under team two. So it doesn't really matter the order in which you're sending these.
Hmm.
Uh, it's going to take the team, whatever was the first value for the team two that it receives, it's going to show it as the first value under the team two section, which I think can work for you for showing your appointments as well, right? So on a given date, you can have 5 appointments, which would show up under, say, today is the 27th, so it just shows you 27th, you have these appointments. Um, I hope that answers your question. Any other questions about this?
Not yet.
Dave, is there anything else that I'm missing out?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. Like the other main difference is you can switch this list between using flat list and flash list behind the scenes. So depending on what your preference is on the list component, can you make
Oh,
it
that's
clickable? Are you asking about the header component? Can you make the header in the list clickable? Or Davey, what exactly are you asking to make clickable? If the question is, can you make the header clickable? Yes, you could if you use the custom header and you put a pressable the element between the sections. Yeah, the headers can. If you use a custom one, you could use a pressable or touchable or whatever you want inside there.
um, so basically this is what Dave's saying. So if you add a pressable and then you make this pressable cover your text component, then you would have the ability to add triggers. I can add an on-press trigger, say log to console, and then I can have section list item. Maybe let's see what that does. Huh. Maybe let's just put in a static value, say test. Boom. So you get test. And I think you should still be able to pass the name here as well. Huh. Okay. So this seems a bit odd, but we can look into this. That why
Which
is it
name?
not?
Which name? What value are you trying to grab?
I'm grabbing either the section list, any value from the section list item, basically.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
if I do maybe team, okay. So this goes back for us to take a look at. But yeah, you can see, Davey, that we can basically add pressables to this, pressables to the list items, and have as much of a functionality that you want to do with those things.
So the list, the section, the header is not going to have access, I don't think, to the each individual item, right? It's going to have access to the just whatever the section that you're passing it to. So in this case, it would be team or whatever the team name, right? Because we're not iterating over every record to create the sections. So it's not going to have access to the individual properties for a specific item in the list.
Got it.
Right.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, what Jay just said, exactly.
Cool. Any other questions here? Because I can't see the questions list, guys. So just
No,
let
no,
me
you're
know.
good. I think that's it.
Cool. So moving on to the next thing, which is our headings, right? So now we have 6 components here,
Yeah,
which is
6.
basically 6 different types of headings. That's what you get in HTML. So you can have, if you want to use these, you can use these directly to do your headings and just use the same component to do the same size headings throughout your app.
Yeah, it's essentially a text component with some default heading styles, kind of in line with H1 through H6. So.
Okay. Actually, that's pretty cool. And it also has this prop, and not everyone is aware of this. Our text component also has this prop called selectable. So once you turn this prop on, and if you're on your phone, you can actually click and highlight the text on your screen and then copy it, forward it, or what you want to do. But if you don't have this on, you won't be able to select the text on your screen. So in some use cases, this is you might not want users to copy the text from your app. In some use cases, you might want them to do this. So just a note for you guys, whoever is here, a pro tip.
Jay, it's more just a convenience, component.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on to the cool stuff? I mean, this is cool as well. Don't get me wrong, guys. All right, moving forward. So we have been doing a lot of updates to our map component to make it, more useful. And one of the newest features that we added was clustering. For those who don't understand what clustering is or have a rough idea about it, it's basically there would be use cases that you have a ton of location markers. You might have a ton of location markers in one single place in your application, and that just looks very not really great, for lack of a better word. So in those use cases, what you can do is you can have a cluster component. You can have a custom cluster component as this one, in which we are using a star icon and clustering these two markers. So it looks like one when you're looking at a map from, less zooming in. So think about this as there are 100 place markers here, and you don't want to crowd up your screen showing those 100 markers, so you can use this cluster component to do this. And also giving you the ability to have custom map markers, so you can have your own image, stack it data to create your own custom marker. So let's see if I can quickly maybe do some of this. Let's use this. And then have this image show up. And once I find the marker that this is, oh, there we go. So you can see, you can add any kind of a custom marker, and you can have multiple different custom markers depending on the logic that you want to have in here. Any questions so far about the map component?
No, not yet.
And we also added an on press trigger on our map. So I can basically print out the latitude, and I can also print out longitude. So wherever so sometimes, there would be use cases that you're showing a map in this and you want your user to place a custom marker there. This would give you that ability. So if I click, for instance, somewhere on the map, did it not refresh? Oh, apologies. So what I did was I added it here. So when I click on this, it will give you the location of that component. And on the map view, we also have an on press trigger. We have two triggers now. So on region change. So when you're dragging stuff, so when you're moving the region in your map, you can have a trigger there. One of the use cases that we did use this in the past is, you don't want to show, going back to my 100 marker example, you don't want to show 100 markers at one spot. So on region change, you can have, you can pull more data in, and you can show those markers depending on where the user is in the app. Just to make sure. Okay, you guys still around, right? Because I'm not hearing anything.
Yeah, I muted.
Already. Any questions? Anyone? Any questions from you, Dave or Rumeysa, on our map view component?
No, I was just going to mention that like the custom or the map marker cluster view is what's optional. Like that's to be used if you don't want to use the default little cluster, which I think is like a circle, if I remember. If you wanted to like pull it out and stick them, just pull it out of there. It should revert to, yeah. So there you can see it's got the little purple
so if I,
dot.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, default clustering, or you can add whatever you want to do for your clustering, which is pretty powerful.
Yep.
Cool.
Great.
Is there any other questions so far, or should we kind of head into our fetch component?
Maybe we should talk about fetch components. Yeah.
Okay, so let me see if I can just add a screen in this app and try to demonstrate that live to you. Okay, so first of all, I would like to apologize to our users for the couple of problems that we faced in the past few days regarding your fetch component. This is leading to something which I personally feel is pretty great, but I will let you guys to comment on it. Something that I'm familiar with, let me just add, we have properties. I think I should be able to showcase this with properties itself. We have ID and description, perfect. This would do. Do we have a picture? Oh, we have a picture as well, awesome. So first of all, let me add a fetch component and talk about the new features of our fetch component. So now on our fetch components, this has been out there since last week. So some of you would have already seen it. Some of you might have not. So I'll go over it again. Before, our fetch component only had the on data trigger. Now we have added a whole bunch of triggers to our fetch component. Let me just add service. And a point to note is these triggers are only available when you're using React Query for your endpoints. If you're not using React Query, you would only have access to the onData trigger. So the new triggers are basically on processing. So whenever your server is returning 100x or 1xx level, you can have a trigger to handle that in your application. So I can add this trigger and people can either show a different image or whatever your use case would be. You can easily handle this. Instead of using multiple conditions inside your onData trigger, you can now have this in which you can do a whole bunch of things without any problems. One of the use cases that I think this would be super helpful for is the unauthenticated state, which is your user opens an app, they are trying to fetch a list, and it returns a 401 error, which means that your auth token is invalid. In that case, you can have this trigger and you can either do the refresh token action. So you can connect to your refresh token endpoint, get a new refresh token, create a new auth token, and then that fixes itself. You can have a navigate action in there, which basically navigates you to your login screen. You can have a pop-up open and ask them to log in on the same screen. So there's a whole ton that you can do. And for the purposes of this demo, I think my first goal would be successful. So I can add my favorite log to console and just say 200. So once it loads, you can see I can get 200 because it was a successful request. Now I can add another trigger, which would be on. So you can see we have on request error 4xx, so which basically covers all the use cases, which would be 401, 403, like a blanket, or you can target specific statuses. So 401 can also be an option there. So in this case, I'll just show you 4xx and then log to console. And I would just type in not found. And to do this, because obviously right now, because I've tested my endpoint, it's always going to be successful. But we added another cool feature, which is still under a flag, but it can be added to any one of our users' accounts, which is the option of skipping. So you don't have to. Sometimes when you are adding your API endpoints, you might not be getting a success message from the server, and in the past that has caused problems for our users trying to implement endpoints. Again, I wouldn't recommend this for all your use cases, because there's a reason why we test these endpoints, because we generate
Rahul, let me chime in real quick, because this is something I was talking during the product meeting this morning. We are going to release this to users, but so that's the intention, is to release it probably, I guess, during next release next Wednesday or something. So just FYI, everybody, we will have an option to skip saving your endpoints. The caveat that there could be, you should be aware that using it could lead to unexpected outcomes.
Yeah.
Most people that know what they're doing will be fine, but our main concern is non-technical users who we have a lot of clicking this, not knowing what they're doing, and then having issues later, taking up support time just because they're clicking on things, not knowing what they're doing, whatever. So that's been the main reason why we've held on to it. But yeah, we are planning on releasing it, so it will be there soon.
That's amazing. Right. So just continuing what I was saying. So the reason we asked you to test your endpoints is so that we can generate the schema of your request. this is what allows us to basically give you those options in the drop down menu where you want to select name, ID, or whatever. So this is why we asked you to test it. And just so that I get an error, what I'll do is I'll change the path to force an error. So let's see if it's actually giving an error. Yep, it's a 404 error. And you can see the save is disabled. But if I hit the skip button, we have this warning for you guys. And then skip, you can see the save button now. So I click on the save button and I do done. And now you can see not found is being triggered because we are getting 404 from the backend. Moving forward, so with our fetch component, with more new changes in fetch, which again I find are pretty useful, is for instance, let me add an image. We have an image, and you can see right now what's happening is because there's a 404, you're seeing the spinning circle, and now if I go and I do my role as editor, so there you go. Let's first see what it does, and then I'll explain what the roles are. So now you can see the spinner is gone, and you're actually seeing an image that it's an image right now. You can have anything in here. You can even have a list component, which shows you when there's an error in the server. But the idea here is if it's an error, rather than doing whole stuff of conditional displaying and all of that we used to do in the past, now you can add roles to your components under fetch. So we have 3 different roles. The roles are data. So basically when you actually get your data loading, so this is when it's processing. So you can have a loading state on your fetch component. You can add like a skeleton image in the loading state. And obviously the third one that we are on is our error state. So whenever there's an error in your fetch component, you can show an image. I don't see anyone's reactions, but if I was in your place, I would have my mouth open and be like, oh man, this is really cool.
People are excited about the skip.
Yeah,
sure.
saving as a draft is another recommendation from Jay. And Mike also says saving as a draft would be nice because sometimes they get halfway through and want to change something on the endpoint. So it could be a good thing, right? Saving as a draft is another option, certainly.
Yeah, I think you can still continue using the skip functionality there as well, right? So whatever you're doing in here, you can skip it and save it. So that's like in a way, a draft state for you. It's not going to work. So you can come back in and then you can make these changes again and then retest it.
Yep. And one other thing we were talking about this morning is I probably won't be available when we first release this, but giving you the ability to enter your own schema there at the very end, like after you do the test, or once you skip the test. If you skip it, Rahul, skip
Sure.
the test. Right. So right there, and what would be the response, basically giving you the ability to paste your own schema in there. Right. Your own the shape of whatever data you're expecting.
Actually, that's pretty cool, right? Because that way what you can do is there can be an endpoint that always fails inside of Draftbit, but if you provide us the schema, and hopefully that's the correct schema, you will still see those drop-down options available for you to map your text or whatever components you want to map to your fetch component or list component. Great. Okay, moving on. Let me let me know if you guys want to see the other things that we can do with roles or not. Otherwise, we can basically skip to answering your questions.
Everybody seems excited about all that, so no questions, just people excited.
Amazing.
Mike says pasting our own JSON response schema would be amazing. Amit said that would be awesome. A huge improvement. So Dennis says
Yeah,
it's very cool and useful stuff.
his roles for images only says J, I guess.
No, you can have anything in here, Jay. So,
Yeah.
like one way that I was thinking of using this was, I can have an offline and an online list here as well. I don't know, I just love doing offline and online stuff. Is you can have a global variable that just renders a list when your users are offline, and you can let them render a list when your users are online as well. So this list can also have an error state, and then I can have a completely different list, which is basically my data list. So let me see if I can demonstrate a normal list. So I have my data would be a top level response, and then I have text and maybe an image here. And right now everything is erroring out, so let me fix that. Let's test this. We have this, now my text component. I think we had name. Yep. Name. Here. Something with the URL. Image URL. So now, if you notice, this is basically showing you the list that's actually coming from fetch because there's no error state. And if I take this image and have it to loading state, now you see what happens, right? So when your data is being fetched, you can have an image, a list, any basically Draftbit component that you can use for your loading state. That's basically it in terms of features from the fetch component. Let me know, guys, if I'm missing out or forgetting about something here.
I'll go over, we've got like 10 minutes left. I'll go over some of the like high level stuff for what's coming. Hold
Sure,
on.
let's.
New messages coming in.
Oh,
Okay, I'll just start here. Reusable components. Yes, reusable components are on our roadmap. But it's not something we're actively working on. We did a bunch of work about a year ago on it, and the guy who was working on them left, and so we have a guy now who's kind of working in that area. And so one of the things that he's like we're going to start doing is having him start picking back up that work and try to get it across the finish line. So like no definitive ETA, but I'm hoping, by the end of the year is my goal. Like we have a lot of stuff that we're hoping to do. How is it not top priority? Well, we have a lot of priorities, like, and everybody's priority is different, right? Like what's priority to you is not priority to every other user or priority to us. So, I mean, you know, like it is what it is. We're a small team and we do a lot of work and do it as fast as we can. So I guess just like you'll have to be patient. I don't know what else to say, but um, stack navigators that match stack navs on mobile platform. Okay, Jay. All right. Well, I appreciate that. Did you want me to get through this stuff, or do you want to just like? I mean, I don't know. Um, Copy paste actions. This is something else that we've got. Being able to import and export actions that's being worked on right now. So looking for that to be available soonish. Um, let's see. Complex conditionals. So part of the updates that are going on right now is a totally new action stack. So being able to like more visually compose your actions like with a visual editor. So that is like we're going to be starting to use that next week on our end. So once we use it for a little while, feel like it's in a good place, we'll release it. So I'm thinking probably in the next 2 weeks that stuff should be out and ready to go. And then we've got more plans for that. And in addition to that being introduced, we'll also be introducing like the if else capability within this, new UI for working with actions and all that stuff. It's more like a flow. So like you're able to create a tree and stuff. If you've seen like Flutter Flow or like any of these other, they'll let you do like these workflow kind of things. A conditional for the icon of the bottom tab navigator icons would be nice, so I can highlight or change color. So I'm not sure what exact, we've talked about different options for the navigators, and we're still a little bit up in the air because one of the things we want to do is move over to using the Expo router, which would require a complete overhaul of our navigators and using a different navigator. But one thing that we have introduced recently is custom tab navigator. So you can actually create your own component now, pass in all of the props into the custom navigator and use that instead of the default one. There's no docs yet. Should have docs probably next week, I hope, for that stuff. So and then reusable action chains. So this is kind of the same thing as copy pasting actions, I guess. But yeah, like in the same vein of like being able to import and export actions. But that stuff will probably come out after the new UI stuff comes out. So yeah, visual graphs. Okay, so yeah, actually, I'm working on a write-up right now for victory charts. So we'll probably start with bar chart, line chart, and pie chart. So, but I'm literally writing the write-up for all that right now. So work hasn't gotten there, but it will be like in the next set of components that are coming out. So definitely is on the roadmap, like short-term roadmap. I expect, probably in the next 3 weeks, maybe 4, depending on how hard it is. That's, hard. It's hard to say. As you guys know, like building software, not everything's predictable. So, let me see what else. Davey says, Draftbit's a great tool. I would like to do more by myself, but I'm often getting stuck because of lack of documentation. I believe loads of features are useful for everybody, like auth, sign-in, payment. Is there a way to have access to documentation? Custom code made for users. For example, I have a custom code made for a location suggestion that I would probably be helpful to others. We have a channel in our community of tips and tricks, or one of those that's like intended for you guys to share. Stuff. But this comes back to another thing. Like we're a small team, and like there's lots of things to do. And trust me, like we all bust our ass and like work constantly. and like juggle many things at once. You know, like you see me in community, you know, I'm all over the place. And so we all like do many different things. So it's like things are going as fast as they can, right? So like don't feel like Draftbit is slacking. Like we're literally like constantly grinding it for you guys. So that's the reality, you know, like we can only do so much. So we do it all as quickly as we can. Hopefully you guys understand that and can appreciate it. Can you guys speak to how things are going overall for Draftbit? Great. Like we're doing great. Like generating, we make money, you know, like we're profitable. We're growing, we're adding new stuff all the time. So, I mean, like, I feel like we're doing good, you know. How do you guys feel? Rahul, Rumeysa, how do you feel about how draft is overall going?
Well, to be honest, I'm as excited right now as my first day at Draftbit because we have done great things in the past 2 years, but there's also a ton of it is left for us to do. So it's the same energy that we bring in every day when we come to work. So what Dave was saying, that we are literally grinding our asses when we start our day. So it's not that, no one is uh, not working, just saying. So yeah, overall things with Draftbit is great. We are basically working on our quality as well. So, Dave, who's basically, taking ownership now of the quality and the bugs that come for users. So, the entire team is with Dave. So we make sure, the updates that we do don't break your apps. But I would also let you guys know that, sometimes when we do great things, there are small pain points, right? So sometimes if you have to overwrite a complete logic for a component, there might be use cases where we would ask you guys to, start using the new way of doing things, which would give you more flexibility. And I'll let Rumeysa also chime in on this one because she is the newest member of the team. So you tell us, Rumeysa, how are you feeling uh, about Draftbit? Oh,
I'm not sure she heard us, but
yeah.
um, yeah. So
Yeah,
I
thank
was going to
you. By the
mention
way, my
just,
connection is not stable. Sorry about.
yeah, it's okay.
No worries.
Sorry, because of my
Um,
connection, I guess. If you can hear me, can you hear me?
Yes,
yeah,
we
it's
can
a
hear
little
you.
choppy though. Yeah, that's
All
okay.
right.
That's okay.
That's okay.
Um, So yeah, like, and also just a little added context for everybody. Like a year ago, we like chopped our team in half and like have been rebuilding it since then. Like we let a lot of people go and like basically we're even smaller. A year ago, like our team was very small. And so like over the last year, we've been building the team back up, getting, trying to ramp up. And like now I mean, Draftbit is doing the best it's ever done. So like in terms of like our staying power, like we feel like it's only going up from here. You know what I mean? Like we plan on doing a relaunch eventually, like back on Product Hunt. And we've got other stuff like somebody mentioned AI. Yes, of course. Like we've got AI stuff that we're playing around with. We have one feature that we're using on our side a little bit, playing around with in the custom code modal, where you can type in a prompt and it'll spit out the code, into the custom code modal. So obviously that's some stuff we're working on, or thinking through, and then also being able to generate screens. Ideally, like we would like to get to a point where we can generate screens. But to get to that point, there's some work we have to do with the way that we store screens right now and save them, and the way we do style. So there's like some more standardizing that we need to do on our back end for how we are keeping track of data and all that stuff, to make it easier to generate that stuff for an AI and train it to do the things. But definitely something else that is on our list. Trying to look back through comments.
Sorry, can you hear me right now?
Yeah,
Yes.
I want to say something. Since
Sure.
I'm recently joined team, I want to say something. I mean, first of all, I'm very excited to be present in this session. And I joined this team recently, but to tell the truth, I have been kind of captivated by the platform and the technology that we are working on, and especially the passionate team we have, really. And now I really appreciate this opportunity to connect with our community, but also I really want to thank them for their patience through these bug issues, because their user experience is very extremely important to us, and it's important to bring their innovative ideas to life, let's say, without hiccups. So I think um, this is the moment to appreciate our users, our community patience and understanding as well. And one point, maybe we can introduce, announce some new subscription models that we introduced at Draftbit. What do you think?
sure.
It's
Yeah, you can mention them. Sure.
Yeah, it's all about public now in our pricing page though, but you can go to details. I go there for details, but just roughly, they're specifically designed for freelancers and I guess agencies and enterprises, right? And you can find details on our pricing page, but freelancer plan offers 3 workspaces, I guess, and agency plan steps up a little bit to up to 10 workspaces, and early access to upcoming features, and Slack support for your team. And in enterprise plan is with unlimited workspaces, dedicated training session for your team, for your entire team, and etc. There are tons of other things you can check. But yeah, we have this new subscription models. You should definitely check it too.
Okay. Thank you, Rumeysa. And I would like to answer one of Davy's questions as well. So, Davy, as you said, you would like to have documentation for, Google sign in, revenue cat, and all of those things. We are working on it. Uh, Sometimes it's complex because you have to do things in different services. So for instance, you have to do your setup for iOS, your setup for Google, your setup for revenue cat, for instance. So documenting this is like a big deal. I mean, it's not something that is just concerning to Draftbit. So we have to limit our scope in terms of what kind of documents would we be able to produce, and how much help those documents would give you. But moving forward, all of these components, we are planning on doing those as no-code components in the future. So, as Draftbit is evolving, we also find new use cases, right? So, like if we find something new, we need to first test it to make sure that's available for our users without any glitches. So I hope that makes sense. But yes, we are working on it, and we internally also want our users to use as less code as possible. So give us some time. We will definitely be bringing in no code components to do most of the things in your app.
Yeah, I mean, like ideally, we want to have all the things abstracted, right, and make it all like no, but like it's just a matter of time, right? And like abstracting every little thing is probably, futile anyway, but like the goal obviously is to like make everything as easy and intuitive and like no bugs, but like there is no software without bugs. Like we're gonna release stuff that has bugs sometimes. I'm sorry, like, and we'll fix it as soon as we can. Like a lot of times we're the ones that find the bugs first because we're always using the builder. But you know, there will be times when stuff doesn't always work out. But overall, like again, I feel good. Like Draftbit is doing great. Like we're not going anywhere. We're continuing to build and like push what we can do with it. And so I guess my main ask would be like just to be patient with us because like we're literally operating at we're doing literally as much as we can. Most of us are like just doing way more than one person should. So abstract all the things. That's right. I mean, ideally, I think we'll get there or close enough. At least like as much as reasonable for general use, right? Like we can't cover every specific use case, but do our best. I'm
Thank you,
done. That's
Jay.
it.
Thank you, Jay,
Appreciate
and
it, Jay. All right.
thanks everyone that was here. If there are no further questions, I think this is a good spot that we can end this conversation. So, any parting words? Let us know
Yeah,
now.
I'd like to say thank you all for joining, for questions, for feedback. Thank you, Rahul, Dave. It was a great session. And I think our next office hour will be on 2 weeks later, right? So we look forward to seeing you there. And if there are specific topics, you'd like you'd like us to cover next time, please let us know. And thank you.
Thank you, Rumeysa. You did a great job on your first office hours, so congrats.
I mean, having you and Rahul, it's very good. I'm always counting on you guys. Really, thank you very much.
Well, Mike, appreciate that. Definitely. So, your support on our community to other users means a lot to us, and we actually want to cultivate this habit is, we don't have to answer all questions on the community and let users answer each other's problems. That's what community support is. So appreciate your effort there. So thank you everyone for joining. Jay, Mike, Dennis, Davey, Amit, appreciate it. I hope I see you guys after 2 weeks as well. Thank you guys.
Take care.